Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm your host, Brittany Jones-Cooper, and welcome to Build Series. Game of Thrones is coming back for its 8th and final season on April 14th, where we will finally learn who takes the Iron Throne. Today, I'm sitting down with Hannah Murray to talk about what's in store for her character, Gilly. But first, here's a trailer for Game of Thrones.
I know death. He's got many faces. I look forward to seeing this one.
Everything you did brought you where you are now. Where you belong. Home.
They're coming. Our enemy doesn't tire. Doesn't stop. Doesn't feel. I promise to fight for the living. I intend to keep that promise.
Please help me welcome Hannah Murray. That's a nice round of applause.
That's
Welcome to
lovely.
Build.
Is this on?
I think it's on.
Okay, great.
Okay, I think we're good. My first question is the most important. Are you worried about spilling a secret?
Very, very
Okay.
worried, yes.
I understand.
So please be kind to
I
me.
will be so kind because I can only imagine the amount of pressure you guys are all under doing
I feel
press
like it
tours.
gets more and more intense, like day by day as we get closer. And like, this is the point at which I'm going to mess up, I'm sure. But yeah, it feels like you're like a bomb that's about to go off, knowing all this. You could just like ruin someone's day by telling them everything.
You could ruin a lot of lives, basically.
Yeah.
So we'll start easy. I want to go back to the beginning, actually, with how you got brought into Game of Thrones, because it's been quite the journey for you. So I want to go back. What was it like auditioning, kind of knowing that it was already a big show that people loved?
Yeah, so it's a long time ago now. And I was 22 years old, I think. And I had just finished an English degree at university. So I didn't have a TV while I was studying there. And I'd heard about this show, and my friends had watched it, but I'd never seen it. And then I got sent this audition, and I just got the sides, like the audition scenes, and they were just really well written. They were just it was a scene from season 3, actually, with Sam and Gilly, and I was learning my lines, and I was so excited by how many possibilities there were and how many different ways I could play the role. So I went in, and I had all my different versions I was excited to do, and then I did one take, and they said, "Okay, that's fine, you can go." And I thought it had either gone really well or really badly, and luckily it was well, and they offered me the part. So.
And I read already had friends who were on the show.
Yeah, so my friend Joe Dempsey, we had done a show called Skins together, which was my first job, and so yeah, I knew about it through him, and I knew he had a really great experience working on season 1, and then later on, Jacob Anderson joined on season 3, and we were living together at the time when he got cast, and that was really fun because he was a fan of the show, and he was like, "You keep ruining it for me when you come on because it takes me out of like the fantasy world." And he was like, "I've ruined it for myself. I'm going to be in it too." So yeah, that was very cool to have all my friends like around on set as well.
What sort of prep did you do to take on this role? Because knowing that the books and how the fandom is so passionate about it, how did that influence how you prepared to play Gilly?
Well, it was great. It was great to have the books as a resource, for sure. And I'm quite a big reader, so I was really excited to kind of get stuck into those. And I would read them as we did them. So I read the first 2 books before season 2, and then the third book before season 3. And then David and Dan told me that my character was going off book. So I stopped reading them because I didn't want to get confused between two different versions of her. But yeah, I think for the beginning, it was really, really helpful to have all this kind of extra detail about the character.
Yeah. And Gilly's life was tough. So
Yeah,
the first time you read
really tough.
her story, read your lines, I mean, what was that like? Because she really had a pretty traumatic childhood.
She had, I think, about as traumatic
Yeah.
as it gets. Yeah. And yeah, David and Dan actually recommended the book Room to me, which now is a movie as well with Brie Larson, but that at the time was just a book. So I read that book as well, just to kind of think about the idea of your world being so small and your options being so limited and really being controlled by another person. And that was kind of fascinating, also because in that book, you also get, when you come out of that and you come into the larger world and you suddenly have freedoms again. And I think that sense of discovery and wonder that Gilly's been able to experience over the sort of 7 seasons she's been on the show has been the most joyful thing to get to play. That everything, like when she sees a tree, when she sees the ocean, when she sees a castle for the first time, everything's new for her. And I always found that so wonderful to play because it makes you, I feel like it's quite an important reminder of gratitude, of how very simple things can be very, very beautiful things if you appreciate them and you're seeing them for the first time.
I think like so many fans of the show, I've gone back to rewatch it a second time just to kind of get ready for the finale. And I think one reason we all love the show is the character development and watching when we're introduced to these characters, how much they change and evolve up until this point. And Gilly is one of those characters because she starts off very meek and sort of quiet, and we've gotten to watch her find her voice.
Yeah.
She's learned how to read. All of these
Yeah.
things that she's gotten to travel quite a bit because they've kind of moved from spot to spot. So have you thought about her evolution and how do you play her now versus how did you approach her from the beginning?
Yeah, it's definitely, there's been a very marked change, I think, season by season, really. And for me, it's sort of been about the discovery of joy. And I made a conscious decision in some of the earlier seasons not to smile ever, because I thought that was something she didn't know. She just, like, those muscles hadn't developed for her almost, because she had nothing to smile about ever. And then, I kind of gradually brought in little hints of that in sort of towards the end of season 3, beginning of season 4, and then you actually, by season 5, 6, you see her sort of beaming. And so that was a really important thing for me to track, sorry. And I just think she's such a beautiful character, and I love her journey, and there's so many, and I think the learning to read thing has been huge for her and so exciting, and then huge for the implications of what she was then able to discover.
Yeah, I was going to say last season, not a spoiler, she pretty much unveiled one of the things that we're going to see really play out in this final season.
Yeah.
She turned out to be a really pivotal character.
Very pivotal, yeah.
In Jon
yeah.
Snow's story and him realizing he's a Targaryen.
Yes.
Which is massive.
Which is massive. And I was very honored to be able to be a part of, for her to have such an important role. Yeah. And it just shows you the power of education and learning to read. It, can change the world.
Yes, and how much this series empowers women.
Yes.
Which is something I think we all love.
Yes,
is
definitely.
Even a character who you think maybe is an underdog, you can never count him out.
No. Well, you can never. I mean, I think the show has just taught everyone to really expect the unexpected as well from all its characters.
Yeah. So what's going to happen in the finale? Just joking.
Just joking.
Just wanted to catch you off guard a little bit. Let's talk about Gilly and Sam. What do you think bonds them? Why do you think their love is so pure? Because it is one of the purest love affairs on the show.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's we're kind of a rarity, I think, on this show.
There's nothing weird or tainted about their relationship.
Yeah, I think they both come from very abusive childhoods in different ways, but they both have these terrible, terrible father figures. And I think they come with this incredible vulnerability. When they meet each other, they're quite sort of broken people. And one of our directors described them to me as two birds with broken wings. And when they come together, they realize for the first time they might be able to fly. And he said that, and I sort of welled up because it was just such a beautiful analogy for a relationship. And I think that's what they give each other. They give each other hope and the possibility of a better life. And because they both have suffered in these different ways, I think they're very respectful of each other and very careful with each other and very delicate with each other's feelings. And so you see the way that they treat each other as with such care and attention and love. And I just think and then also they have this child that they're now raising together as this beautiful little family unit. and they're funny and they make fun of each other and they can sort of be mean to each other in very sweet ways. And I just think it's a beautiful dynamic, and I've loved working on it with John and kind of crafting that relationship over the years.
I love that broken bird thing, because these are two people who, when they found each other, they really empowered each other.
Yeah.
And Sam, I believe, is going to have a huge role in the finale. He has a lot of knowledge, and he obviously is going to help a lot of things come together. But I don't know if he could have had the confidence to do those things without Gilly.
Well, John's always said that if Sam hadn't met Gilly, he wouldn't be alive anymore.
Yeah.
Because he didn't have, when he's sort of running from the White Walkers at the end of season 2, I think it is, it's because he's met her that he has a reason to want to live. Yeah. Whereas otherwise he might have just lain down in the snow and given up, you know? So yeah, I think she's the reason why she's the reason why he was able to kill a White Walker. If he was on his own, he wouldn't have had that kind of, but he bravery. Yeah, the bravery comes of his need to protect her. Yeah. So yeah, she's absolutely instrumental in his journey as well.
What's been your favorite part about working with John Bradley, who we have coming later on today?
We do, yes.
To
You're
build,
very lucky.
if you guys want to come back at 2 and check that out.
That will be a treat.
Yeah. So what's been your favorite part about working with him, or what do you guys kind of do to work on that kind of genuine authenticity of, you know, that love that your two characters share?
We make each other laugh a lot. He's very, very funny, as I'm sure you will see later. We make each other laugh. We have a lot of like very stupid inside jokes that don't really make sense to anyone but ourselves. And we also, I think it's interesting, we both have very different backgrounds in terms of, like, John trained at a drama school. I started acting when I was a bit younger and didn't train. And so we approach acting in quite different ways. And because of that, we've been able to teach each other a lot and really learn from each other, which has been amazing to me, because you don't normally get to work with another actor for so long and really, really build that working relationship in that way. So yeah, I think the way that we both, in the same way that Sam and Gilly respect each other's differences, we both respect each other's differences and really just appreciate what we can learn from each other.
On that note, then, how did it feel emotionally for you, kind of prepping for your final scene together? And then afterwards, did you guys do anything special to celebrate, or what was that like?
I mean, I think we went out for dinner or something on like my last day. My last day was before his last day. It's still very weird. I mean, I think doing press now, it's kind of like the last round of everything. All of us are still a little bit in denial that it's over. So we still have all these opportunities to kind of work together in this context. And so it's easy to pretend that we'll be back filming in the summer and it's just going to be like normal. I think we're still kind of quite in denial about the fact that it's really coming to an end.
Was there like a big rap party, or?
Yes, very big.
Anything fun happen?
Yeah.
Anything you want to share?
No.
Cool. I never want to share what happened at my parties either. It's fine. I understand. But you guys did have a moment to celebrate all together.
We did, yeah. And previous people who from other seasons came everyone was invited basically from the whole kind of run of the show, and that was really nice to see people we hadn't seen in a long time. And and the same is true for our premiere. We've got a lot of people returning from previous seasons, so that's really nice.
So what has been your favorite part about playing Gilly?
I think working with John Bradley, honestly. I think that, I know I've just talked quite a lot about it already, but he's such a special human being and he's such a talented actor, and I think that I just feel very, very lucky to have had such a great partner in crime. And
looking back, well, I guess you haven't looked back yet, but when you look back on your Game of Thrones experience, what do you think will be the most memorable thing for you, or just the thing that you'll always sort of remember?
I think all of the people, I think we're such an odd bunch. We're really, really, like, everyone's so interesting and quite weird and wonderful, and I just feel very happy and lucky to be part of this big family, this big odd family. I just think I'll always hold those relationships very dear to my heart, and with our crew as well as our cast, because a lot of our crew have been with us from the very beginning.
It's a really unique experience, and I'm sure you haven't it's, I think, arguably the biggest show in television history, so I'm sure it will probably take you some time to process.
Yeah, it could be that, and it's very strange. I don't feel like I can hold in my mind the two truths at the same time, that there is a show that is as big as Game of Thrones is and that I'm in it. I can keep them as separate thoughts, but the idea that both are true doesn't seem plausible to me.
Right, but something tells me the fans probably make that hard for you to forget that you're on the show. Like, do you get stopped or...
I guess so. Yeah, I don't. It kind of depends if the show's on or not. Like, I've been in a kind of down period where people don't really seem to recognize me so much at the moment, but I'm sure come mid-April that will change. And people are always I think people have a real fondness for Sam and Gilly, so I mostly get very nice comments, which is good.
It must be hard to be Cersei. Or
Sure. Yeah.
Those are probably more challenging fans to deal with. So Game of Thrones, it's in the bag. We're going to get to see it, but you have other amazing work in the future for you. I know you're working on a film called Charlie Says.
Yeah, I have a movie called Charlie Says that comes out in May, which is about the women who killed for Charles Manson. So it's not light in the slightest, which seems to be my pattern at the moment, is I just do very dark, true stories. I'm really, really proud of this one. It's a very female-driven story. It's got a female director, Mary Harron, and a female writer, Guinevere Turner. And it's about kind of 3 female leads, really, is the focus of it.
I think that's really interesting because Charles Manson, when you do look into the story, he was sort of the puppeteer, but the women were the ones who carried out some of the more heinous crimes.
They were, yes.
Yeah.
And I think that the women, that we always hear about the Manson women as a group, as if they're not individuals. And this is really kind of trying to look at these 3 individual women, Leslie, Patricia, and Susan, and try and understand why they did what they did and why they would sort of give their power over to a man in that way.
It's such a well-known story, but is there something that you kind of found out in your research or preparation that still kind of shocked you?
I mean, there was so much I learned because I wasn't aware of Leslie's name before I started working on the project. But so there's the really interesting thing that our film kind of focuses on is their time in prison. And there was a woman named Carleen Faith who came in to work with them and try and essentially kind of unbrainwash them through education. And that's sort of the arc of our movie, is watching them come back to themselves and realize that what they did was wrong. And there's something just so interesting and complicated about the idea that you would try and rehabilitate someone who had done something so awful, and whether that is the right thing to do or not. But I think, I was just amazed by how much more there was to learn.
This sounds really interesting, and I like the timing of it too. Like, you get to wrap up Game of Thrones and then move on to something that is equally as kind of good to bite into.
Yeah, it was certainly meaty as a role. Yeah, and I think Game of Thrones has set the bar so high that I want to keep working on very complicated characters if I can.
Absolutely. Well, we look forward to everything that is in store for you.
Thank you.
We do have a couple questions from the audience.
Absolutely.
So who do we have first?
Hi. So I've been a big fan of you since Skins, and so seeing
Thank you.
You and Joe Dempsey just pop up in Game of Thrones just made it even better. But both Cassie and Gilly, they have these really complicated and almost tragic backstories. So how do you, as an actress, relate to them in order to sort of convey that message onto the screen?
That's a really good question. Thank you. I just think it's kind of empathy, like that kind of the same way that you would relate to them when you watch it. I read a script and I care about people in the same way that I care about my friends or my family or people I see on the news, or it's just like a basic human to human connection thing. And I think that's why I do have this very strong response to these often very kind of vulnerable, complicated, messy women. That means I kind of end up doing a lot of roles that seem quite hard to watch or quite tragic, or but I think that empathy is like the most important thing we can do as human beings, because I think everything good stems from that. So that's why I love what I do, is that I feel like that's at the heart of it all.
And with Gilly's storyline too, it's so horrific. I mean, it's incest, it's sexual abuse, but Gilly is still so hopeful.
She's very hopeful
and optimistic, and when she has an opportunity to go, she does. And
I think she's a survivor.
Yeah,
she's absolutely she's like thriving in her life. I think we've seen so much of that throughout the seasons, and in a very, very dark world in general, she's got so much hope, which I think is such a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I think that's really special about Gilly. And one last question.
Hi. Yeah.
Hi.
Similarly, I've been a fan of you since Skins.
Thank you.
And I'm really happy to see your career progress so far. One question is, so imagine if Cassie and Gilly meet in real life, which is a bit meta since you're playing both of them. What do you think they would talk about? Would they be like, oh my God, your dad was or talk about Sid or Sam?
Yeah, I think their partners are quite. I think Sid and Sam have some sort of parallels as well. So I can imagine they would talk about their respective partners, and I think they would. I think they're both I think Cassie was always like a very, very intelligent character, and I think they would have a lot of kind of interesting stuff to talk about Gilly learning to read and that kind of educating herself. And I think Cassie would really respect that about her.
Thanks for your question. Well, Hannah, it's been so great chatting with you.
too.
We're all fans of the show, and I think we all just want to say thank you to you and the rest of the cast for just creating this world. I know it's a lot of work and a lot of hours and a lot of time, but we've enjoyed the ride. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
And if you guys want to check out the final season of Game of Thrones, it will air on April 14th on HBO. Give it up for Hannah Murray.